Hi, my name is Danny. You talked a lot about human rights activism. What's a good way for a college student to get involved with that? What's a good first step?
Yes, first step is do not join the United Nations. I mean, they are the biggest, most useless organization I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm sorry, but I have spoke at UN multiple times and complete degenerates. I'm so sorry. They let North Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, they let them decide who are the human rights violators. This is a joke, right? It's a show. So when you want to become a human rights activist, I think it's really important to find your own path and not following this mainstream. And BLM people say they are like fighting for human rights too, right? So it's not at this point embarrassing to even say that because human rights got hijacked by so many social justice warriors. They're like, what are you actually fighting for? So yeah, I think don't look for big institutions, and it needs a lot of innovation. So like think about it as a business. We need to innovate these NGO spaces as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alana. So since you've been in America, what is one thing that you think Americans take for granted that you love?
It's choice.
Choice.
I don't think Americans understand what a unique thing to have a choice. Choice to where you live.
This isn't some feel-good motivational speech or cozy campus chit-chat. This is a verbal sledgehammer from a woman who escaped hell on earth. Yeonmi Park doesn't give talks. She drops truth bombs so explosive, they leave entire lecture halls gasping for air. Her story isn't inspiring, it's soul-rattling. 1 minute you're scrolling, sipping lattes, and stressing about Wi-Fi speeds, and the next, you're staring into the abyss of what real suffering, real oppression, and real evil actually look like. Students at Atlantic University didn't just listen. They were wrecked, stunned, visibly shaken. Why? Because Yeonmi didn't come to play. She tore into the cold, brutal horror of North Korea's regime with the kind of raw, unfiltered honesty most of us wouldn't survive for 5 seconds. This is more than a wake-up call. It's a spiritual slap to the face. A savage, brutal dismantling of every delusion we cling to about freedom, safety, and comfort. It exposes the soft, spoiled underbelly of Western privilege with surgical precision. And once you hear her speak, there's no going back. You think you're oppressed? Try watching your friends starve to death. Try escaping through frozen mountains while being hunted like prey. Try living every second knowing a wrong word could get your entire family executed. Yeonmi lived it. And now she's dragging the truth out from the shadows and slamming it down for the world to see. This isn't a video. It's a reckoning. So don't scroll. Don't look away. Because once you witness what she has to say, the lie you've been living in won't survive another second. Watch the clip. Then ask yourself, are you really free or just comfortably numb?
Hi, I'm Alana. So since you've been in America, what is one thing that you think Americans take for granted that you love?
It's choice.
Choice.
I don't think Americans understand what a unique thing to have a choice. Choice to where you live, what you do, who you marry, what you even eat. When you go to restaurants, you have at least dozens of them to choose from. In North Korea, we don't have cookbook because nobody can afford the ingredients to make different kinds of food. So I think that's what I see, that Americans don't understand how unique the way of life is here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're shocked. Don't be. Our schools are drowning in Marxist brain fog, and the data proves it. Liberal professors are dominating classrooms. That's not just bias. That's ideological indoctrination in broad daylight. But here's the sinister part. They don't have to. Because the real danger isn't worship. It's ignorance. A willful, dangerous ignorance about the system that built every luxury these students take for granted. Free markets built their dorms, their iPhones, their Uber Eats deliveries. And yet nearly half of young Americans are now swooning over socialism like it's some utopian fantasy out of a Netflix documentary. Let's be clear, this isn't some grassroots rebellion. It's a sugar-coated illusion, wrapped in Nordic fairy tales and handed out in lecture halls like candy. All while capitalism, the system that actually delivers results, is dragged through the mud as the villain in every economic sob story.
Hi, I'm Alejandra. I'm from Venezuela, and I experienced not the same scenario, but obviously the dictator over there is a friend of Kim Jong-un, and I just have a question because the way I see the generation now is that they're so indoctrinated that there's pretty much no way to revert that damage that the left have caused. And do you think any possibility that we can change that in the near future, maybe?
I think, like people from Venezuela, Cuba, or Iran and North Korea, none of them want to live under socialism. That's why we escaped. And all these people living in democracy, they want to bring the socialism to this country. And the reason why I think they think that way is because of the American education system became a huge propaganda tool. It became an indoctrination camp, like North Korean schoolrooms. And I think once we realize what is getting into our children's minds, and also we realize how American media became liars, and they became a propaganda tool as well. Once we see that, and this hijacking of these big institutions, then I think we can change that. But first is definitely education, that our children getting brainwashed, and my son is too. I worry about that every day, and people really don't understand how bad it got in this country right now.
And yeah, capitalism has flaws. But let's not confuse corporate corruption with the raw power of true economic freedom. You don't fix a cracked windshield by torching the entire car. You fix the crack and floor it. Here's the bombshell nobody wants to say out loud. This rising love affair with socialism, it's not idealism. It's entitlement mixed with amnesia. A total erasure of the blood, sweat, and grit that carved out the freedom we swim in today. And guess what? That blindness is paired with an even uglier truth. A total lack of gratitude. Gratitude for the fact that most of the world is still clawing for scraps while we complain about Wi-Fi speeds and late Amazon packages. Sometimes it takes an outsider, a survivor of real oppression, to wake this country up. Maybe that's why voices like mine are dismissed, because we shatter the comfortable delusion these students are so desperate to protect. Well, guess what? Delusion dies today, and truth, ugly, raw, unfiltered truth, is kicking the door down.
I was just wondering, I've also read your book and you said you experienced discrimination there, but I was wondering, is there still a big population of North Korean people who stay in South Korea, or do you think the majority of them defect? But I know, as you said, it's a very small amount who actually make it to America. So if not America, are they just staying in South Korea or going elsewhere?
Oh, mostly they are in China, captured.
Okay.
So majority of North Koreans are in China, and they end up in 4 places as a North Korean defector in China. One is you end up in organ harvesting. So they buy you and take your organs out and discard you. Second is you are bought in these brothels. They rape you until you die. Usually you die in 6 months. And then third place is where a town of men buy a girl, chip in and buy a girl, and then they rotate and she dies out. And last place is sex chat rooms, where they lock these girls indoor and they make them to perform sex acts in front of the camera. And then for that, these girls get fed and get hidden place. So this is happening, and this is a thing. I am here because there are, as I said, 300,000 of them are trapped in China and don't know if there's any life for them. And I've been trying to spread this message in America, in the land of the free. And one of the producers last year in Hollywood wanted to make a movie out of my story from my first book. And he sent me a movie script, and he says, China was my promised land. When I got to China, they gave me protection and refugee. I asked him, what the heck are you talking about? Right? And he said, this is the only way we can make a movie about North Korea in Korean Hollywood, by lying about China. And that's why no Michelle Obama or Mark Clooney or none of these people would sit down with me, talk to me, because they all making money out of China.
Buckle up, because this take, it's the nuclear perspective no one dares to touch. While the world spirals deeper into chaos under the iron grip of centralized power, the human rights movement has been hijacked, corrupted by the very institutions that once claimed moral high ground. The big-name NGOs, they've become little more than echo chambers for progressive talking points, parroting the same stale ideologies that dominate Western politics. Just look closer. Climate change activism twisted into anti-capitalist crusades. Global orgs like Amnesty and Oxfam, swallowed whole by partisan narratives. Human rights are no longer sacred. They're rebranded, diluted, weaponized. But here comes the plot twist they never saw coming. Yeonmi Park. She's not funded by global elites. She's not reciting some UN-approved script. She's a survivor who torched the rulebook and rewrote what activism actually looks like. No handlers, no filters, just fury and truth. She's shattering glass walls with every sentence, bringing the raw, unvarnished horror of North Korean tyranny to the global table, and doing more for human rights than any boardroom full of bureaucrats ever could. And guess who's benefiting the most? American college kids trapped in a self-made illusion. For the first time, they're hearing what freedom really costs, what tyranny really feels like, and it's slamming into them like a freight train. Because the slogans they've been spoon-fed in lecture halls, they crumble under the weight of her reality. But here's where the betrayal cuts deepest. Our education system should be the light in the darkness. Instead, it's a factory of resentment, cranking out graduates who see America not as a flawed but free nation, but as the villain in every global tale. Where are the open minds, the critical thinkers, the global perspectives? Gone, buried under layers of ideological sludge. This isn't just a failure of education, it's a moral collapse, a national self-sabotage, and the price we'll pay for it. It's already being written in the next generation's blind allegiance to fantasy over fact. Let's rip the mask off, because this isn't just about American leftists swallowing collectivist Kool-Aid like it's a new health trend. We're talking about a full-blown global contagion and the puppet master pulling more strings than you think. China. Yeah, you heard that right. The same China that censors, imprisons, and silences its own people is now rewriting the script on our soil, and we're letting it happen. If Trump's tough-on-China stance made elites nervous, what should really terrify you is how fast we're selling out to Beijing's playbook. Need proof? Let's talk Dwight Howard, an NBA icon, a public figure, a free citizen. And yet, the second he dared to say the obvious, that Taiwan is a country, he got dragged through the dirt by the CCP's propaganda machine. Global Times came knocking like some Orwellian prosecutor demanding blood. And what did Howard do? He folded, apologized, groveled. Let that sink in. An American celebrity on American soil, forced to kneel to a foreign dictatorship's talking points. And this isn't a one-off. It's part of a growing list of humiliations, concessions, and cultural cowardice that scream one brutal truth. We're losing our spine. America used to lead with unapologetic strength. Now we're walking on eggshells, trading free speech for foreign approval, and dressing it up as global sensitivity. But this isn't diplomacy. It's submission. And every time we cave, a piece of our national soul gets auctioned off to the highest bidder. Here's the painful irony. We built a nation on defiance, on truth-telling, on standing up to tyrants. But today, our own institutions and influencers are too scared to offend the world's biggest authoritarian regime. How's that for backwards? The good news? We're not done yet. If voices like mine and yours keep pounding on this door, keep telling the uncomfortable truths, keep snapping this generation out of its dazed, digitally drugged stupor, then maybe, just maybe, we can rebuild the guts it takes to be truly free. But we'd better hurry, because the clock isn't just ticking, it's screaming.